I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. Welcome back. So today, as I record this episode, I'm feeling a little bit smug because this morning I went in the sea. I live down here on the south coast in Brighton, and the sea, it's not exactly freezing at the moment. It's about 13 degrees Celsius. But I went in today and I went in yesterday as well for about 10 minutes each. And this is something quite new for me. I mean, down here in Brighton, cold water swimming's been on the rise for a couple of years now. Pretty much every time I go down to the beach, whatever time of year, there is always someone in the sea. But up until now, it's not really something which has grabbed me. I mean, I feel the cold and I like to be cosy. And to be honest, I'm not a great swimmer. However, there is definitely something in it. And I'm really aware of all the amazing health benefits that cold water swimming brings. It boosts your immune system. It gives you that real natural high. It improves circulation. It increases the libido. It reduces stress. So there's no wonder that a lot of women, particularly in their midlife, are really addicted to it. And, you know, I've been in before. I've been in at Christmas. I mean, literally in and out. But other than that, I've been very much fair weather. But I'm going to try, I think, and do it more regularly. I'm feeling pulled to do it at the moment. And I might even invest in a dry robe as I was running across the road this morning in my dressing gown. So yes, watch this space. So maybe I feel that there's a podcast episode brewing about cold water swimming and all the benefits, etc. This week, I'm taking the plunge. Oh, excuse the pun, but I'm going to do a solo episode. I mean, although I love talking to others, I also wanted to ensure I do some solo episodes as well, just really to share what I do. And so far on this podcast, we've had some brilliant guests, and we've heard how important it is to eat well, to meditate, to slow down, to cycle track, and to move your body. We've heard all of these things because we know that lifestyle factors really do affect how we feel during perimenopause. However, it's all one thing. It's all well and good knowing what we should or could be doing at this stage of life. But it's another thing actually doing it and putting it into practice. Having the knowledge doesn't equal behaviour change. Sometimes it does, but not always. So what does? Well, I'm going to talk about how to create new healthy habits today and how to keep them for the long term. Firstly, I'm just going to explain a little bit why behaviour change is difficult, because I'm sure, like me, you have got all excited before and motivated to start something new, for example, sea swimming. It all, and I have tried this before, if I'm totally honest, it all goes well to start with, but before long, something crops up, you find an excuse, your motivation starts to wane, and before you know it, you're back to your old patterns and you give up. Well, this all really is because it starts with the brainstem. Now, the brainstem was the first part of our brains to develop. And the brainstem, and it's sometimes known as the reptilian brain, is the part of the brain which is in charge of all your physical body. So your heart rate, your breathing, your blood sugar, so things which you don't really have to think about. So just all of those parts of your body, anything to keep you alive. And this part of your brain really doesn't like change. It doesn't like unpredictability. It gets pretty set with what it knows. And this is why we all have patterns that repeat themselves. Because to the brainstem, if you've survived an experience once, that experience is worth repeating because you didn't die the first time. And so when we were evolving, it was all about survival. And it wants, what this part of the brain really wants, it wants to keep our love, safety and belonging intact, because when we were evolving all those thousands and thousands of years ago, love, safety and belonging were the things which kept you part of your tribe and it kept you safe. So if you belonged to the tribe, you were more likely to be safe than if you were out on your own. If you're still alive doing a behaviour, your brainstem kind of thinks, oh, great, you're alive. Let's keep doing that experience again. It kept you alive. But it does that even if it's not actually the experience you want. So this means that we just keep having the same experience over and over again. And guess what? We keep not dying. So, for example, when you want to upgrade your lifestyle to a healthy one, so it's very, it becomes unfamiliar to your brain. And unfamiliar equals risky, which equals unsafe, because your old lifestyle is the familiar thing. So that's why we fall back into old patterns. So just think about New Year, and everyone thinks, yes, New Year, new me, I'm going to go to the gym. You sign up, you've got loads of motivation, but it never lasts long. So what we need to do is we need to trick this part of the brain, we need to trick the brainstem into making the changes we want. We have to make the unfamiliar familiar. And this is where behaviour change comes in. So behaviour change is basically about changing your habits. Now, habits can be the actions you take, but they can also be your thoughts and your beliefs. And all of these thoughts and beliefs determine the actions you take. So when you change a habit, or a thought or a belief, you really can change the course of your life. But I'm going to encompass habits as your thoughts, beliefs and actions, just to keep things simple for the moment. So this is actually a huge subject, and it is one I find really fascinating. There are loads of books on this subject. So one of the first books which I read was The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. So that's a really good one if you're interested in the subject. BJ Fogg, so he wrote a book called Tiny Habits. He's a lecturer at Stanford University, and he is all about making the habits as tiny as possible. And then there's James Clear. He also then wrote a book called Atomic Habits. And actually more recently I've read a great book by Jen Sincero called Badass Habits. So these are all great books and actually all have a very similar message, as they're all based on scientific research. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and distill these books very simply for you so that you can move into actioning some small steps today which will really help you create long-lasting habits and ultimately which will help you feel better. So, maybe think about some of the things which you'd like to incorporate into your lifestyle, which are going to help you through this perimenopause transition and actually ultimately help you lead a healthier life and have a life which is going to really keep you fit and well for as long as possible. And I think where so many of us get stuck is that we think that starting something new requires massive action. So, for example, if you want to start a meditation practice, you think, oh my goodness, I've got to start sitting down now for half an hour. Or if you're going to work out, you're going to think, oh, I've got to go to the gym for an hour. It doesn't work like that. James Clear in his book Atomic Habits says if you only improve by 1%, although it doesn't feel really even worth it sometimes, and it's certainly not noticeable, this is the way to go because it's so much easier and more sustainable, and the improvement in the long run will be noticeable. That is, it's a bit like a plane journey. If you're flying just even 1 degree off course to your destination, you're going to end up somewhere completely different, hundreds of miles from where it was meant to be. So it all matters. Habits matter. What exactly is a habit? Well, they are automated behaviours. So many of the habits that we have are there because they're brilliant, because they save us time, they save us energy. They're often things we do on repeat, on autopilot, so that we free up energy and space for more information and for more things to do. They're literally hardwired into our brains. So as Joe Dispenza says, I don't know if you've heard of Joe Dispenza, I'm a great, great fan of his, the neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're attempting to change a daily habit that you've performed thousands of times over 10 or 20 years, it's no wonder that you find it challenging to change. I really like to think about this, think about it as your brain as a jungle full of images and ideas and feelings, and they're all growing and twisting and tangling around one another. As you gather more and more information and more thoughts and more everything throughout your whole life. So now imagine that all of your thought patterns and your beliefs and actions about the way things are have created really well-worn, lovely, wide paths through this jungle in your mind. Paths that you walk down every day without even needing to look where you're going. You know these paths, they are well trodden. However, when you decide to make a change and something unfamiliar, you need to hack through all the tangled vines to create a new path through the jungle of your mind. And that can feel hard and it can feel uncomfortable. And so today I'm going to share with you how you can turn this narrow path into a really lovely, well-trodden, wide, easy path through the jungle. But before that, let me just tell you a little bit about how habits work. So a habit always starts with a trigger. So the trigger sends a cue to your brain that it's time to do your habit. So this can be a sound. It can be, for example, an alarm clock that triggers you to wake up and get out of bed. It can be an action. You could, open your door into your house. That's your action. And you're reminded to take your shoes off. Or it could be a feeling. So when the temperature drops, that's the trigger. You put on a jumper. It could be a smell. You might smell some coffee. And the action is you make yourself a coffee. Or it could even be an emotion. So, for example, when you might feel bored or lonely, so that is a trigger to eat some chocolate. So each trigger leads to a habit or a behaviour, and that always leads to some sort of reward. So, for example, with the chocolate, you've got the trigger, which is feeling lonely. You've got the behaviour, which is the eating of the chocolate. And the reward is it relieves momentarily the boredom for a moment and you feel satisfied. So that's basically how a habit works. So now I'm going to give you 10 steps on how to make a new habit stick. Maybe before we start, just think of something which you would like to start with and see if you can apply some of these steps to that. So the first step I've got, number 1, is let's keep it small. Break your habit into small, teeny, tiny steps. So all the little moments in our lives add up to who we are. Our tiny moments decide really if we're successful or unsuccessful, if we're healthy or unhealthy, if we're happy or unhappy. And I know that adopting new habits, can seem daunting, especially if you're going for something that's really shifting a way of being that you've been participating in for the majority of your life. So that's why breaking habits up into tiny actions makes it easier. So it helps you avoid the discomfort that change often brings. Well, it definitely brings. And that's kind of what I explained a little bit earlier about, why it's hard to get that behaviour change. So breaking it into small, tiny chunks makes it more likely to achieve. Really try and shrink your habit into a tiny bite-sized task or a tiny chunk of time. So, for example, if you wanted to start running, say your aim was to run a 5K, don't immediately start to run 5K. I mean, it makes sense, really. You want to start by really starting small. Now, you might go, I'm going to start running 10 minutes. I would break it up even smaller than that. Start for 2 minutes even. It depends where your starting point is, but start much smaller than you think you can do. And this is because you can then achieve your goal. Okay, and although it doesn't feel like much, you will feel good once you've got to your goal. And you might actually go, oh, I'm actually going to do a little bit more. I'm going to run a little bit longer. And when you can reward yourself for achieving your goal, you'll get all those good feelings, that you'll get those little dopamine hits, which means that you're far, far more likely to come back and do it again. You'll want more of that good feeling, as opposed to trying to do the 20 minutes, not achieving it, feeling terrible about yourself. It was horrible, it hurt. And then the likelihood of wanting to come back is very, very slim, because you'll dread it. And there are no good feelings here. Number 2, tack your habit onto an already existing, well-trodden habit. So this is known as habit stacking. So this is all about attaching your new habit onto a habit that you already have. This is really helpful because you can use your existing habit as your trigger. So for example, when I started my meditation practice, and it took me a while to start my meditation practice, but I worked out that a good place to tack it into my day was to tack it onto my morning shower. So I shower pretty much every morning. And then after the shower, I put moisturiser on, I put my HRT gel on, and that, for those of you who do that, it can take a little while to absorb. So whilst that's happening, I sit down and I meditate. And I started really doing 2 minutes of meditation, and that has now grown and grown and grown. And now my meditation practice is completely embedded, and it's got to the point where I don't necessarily always have to do it after my shower, because I feel like I can get it into my day, whatever. I generally do it after my shower. That's what we call tacking your habit onto an existing habit. So another one might be, for example, every time you put the kettle on, so you do that every morning, you might do 5 squats. That's the new habit. Or you might do something like every time you open the fridge, that's your existing habit, you take 3 deep belly breaths. This has really been proven to help embed new habits. So it's definitely worth a try. Right, number 3, make it easy. The easier you make it, the more success you'll have. So for example, if your new habit is to get yourself to the gym at 6 o'clock every morning, which is what I do, lay out your workout clothes so that you can literally roll out of bed and jump into your workout clothes and you're ready to go. And if I'm going out afterwards, I just get everything ready for when I come back home. So I'll have everything ready in terms of grabbing my lunch if I'm going out or whatever it is. So it's about just being prepared and making things easier. So this is why doing new habits first thing in the morning often gets you the best results, because it's so much easier to do things before the distractions of the day worm their way into your progress. And this is also why who and what you surround yourself with is so, so crucial. We are, as human beings, enormously influenced by who and what we surround ourselves with. Our environment really can make or break us. So, for example, I know that if there is a bag of donuts in my kitchen whilst at home working, I will eat them. I will, because they're there. So it's just much, much easier for me if I don't have them in the kitchen. Another one is if you do want to go to a gym, for example, it's easier to go to a gym which is really close to your house than one which is miles away. It's also easier to be successful, for example, if you hang out with inspiring, successful people. This also includes your emotional environment. Things like listening to music that really pumps you up, makes you happy, reading, watching, participating, and listening to things that make you laugh. All of these things will really, really help. So surround yourself with things that feel good. So number 4 is all about rewarding yourself and celebrating. A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. Most habits don't give you immediate gratification, with the exception, I suppose, of things like cleaning your teeth, because immediately it makes your mouth feel lovely and fresh and clean. So it's easy to do that on a daily basis. Flossing, however, that's much more of a slug because, you don't walk away with much, do you, other than the occasional bloody gum. So that's not that enticing and so harder to do. Or something like meditating, for example. I think that's why it's so difficult. That's why I found it so difficult, because you just don't get an immediate hit of the benefits of it. One day you might feel more calm and centered, but it might also just leave you wondering what the hell the point is for a long time. But when our brain anticipates or experiences pleasure, it releases, as I said before, that chemical dopamine. And we become really addicted to dopamine because it makes us feel good, and we start to really look forward to the habits. And unfortunately, it's not just the good ones, it's also the bad ones, because they also can give us that dopamine hit, that little sort of ping of energy. So we need to make the most of that. And so this is why rewarding yourself after a habit is really, really important. For example, you've probably been in a workout, maybe in a gym, where at the end everyone claps, because it really helps release that sort of dopamine hit, because it's a celebration. For example, when I've done a workout in the gym and I'm lying on the floor stretching, I really do in my mind say to myself, yay, well done, you did it. So not only am I enjoying the endorphins after a workout, I'm also getting that dopamine hit of congratulations and celebration in my head. But you can do this with everything. If you're meditating, you can finish and you can give yourself a little whoop or a little yes. If you, for example, create a gorgeous plate of healthy food, high five yourself. Mel Robbins, you might know of, she talks about the high five habit, and that's in the morning, giving yourself a high five for exactly this reason. It's recognizing how brilliant you are. And it does work. The science says it's worked, but you do need to do some sort of celebration. It could be the Usain Bolt celebration. It could be a whoop. It could just be a well done in your head. Number 5 is repetition is your friend. Repetition of your new habit will require some mental and physical effort at first, and it will feel uncomfortable because obviously you're treading that new path. But if you think back, I don't know if you've ever learnt the piano or an instrument. I remember I learnt the piano and the guitar actually for years. So when learning scales on the piano, I really struggled at first because it just didn't come automatically. But after you practice and practice and practice 100 times, it becomes second nature. The same with tying shoelaces. And if you have children, you've taught them how to tie their shoelaces. It can be really laborious, but after a while, it becomes second nature. I'm teaching my eldest son at the moment to drive, and it's so funny because you have to really break down all the processes which are now so automatic. You have to break them down for somebody else, and you can see slowly how they are becoming more automatic for him the more and more he practices. So repetition is your friend, because what you're doing, you're really just literally changing the wiring in your brain. Okay, number 6. This is all about tracking your progress. So because most habits take a while to produce that desired result, which obviously makes them more difficult to stick, because us humans, as I said before, we like instant results. It's much easier to stick to a habit if you feel like you're making progress. So this is why keeping track of the progress you've made so you can see how far you've come is super helpful. So while you may not see the actual results of the actions you take every day, you will see how many days you've stayed on course with your new habit. And that's a huge accomplishment in yourself. I don't know about you, but I really love a tick chart. I love crossing things off a list. So every day you do your habit, whatever it might be, meditating, doing yoga, not eating chocolate, you can mark that day off on your calendar. And then you can look back over the days and weeks and months of seeing how successful you've been. And, you can see it's so satisfying. You can actually see your progress. And this is much, much more likely to keep you on course. And this really helps build your confidence as well, because you now have real solid proof that you're in the process of making something really good happen for yourself. I mean, there are apps as well which do this too. I know Headspace, which I've got, celebrates, an unbroken string of days meditated. So that all these things really help. All right, number 7. This step is all about accountability. So when we're faced with letting someone down, we are far, far more likely to do the thing. There's research that shows you have a 65% chance of completing some sort of action or a goal you've set if you commit to someone else. And even better, if you have a specific accountability partner and you've made an appointment with that person, you'll increase your chance of success by up to 95%. That is huge. So, for example, if you're starting a habit of running in the morning and you are meeting a friend to join you, you're more likely to do it because you just don't want to let them down. I recently, for years, every year I go and watch the Brighton Marathon or I watch the London Marathon on TV. Every year I'm like, I always feel like crying actually for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I get really emotional about all the amazing people who do those races and all the money they raise. And every year I'm like, I really, really I would like to do it. Not that I should do it, but I would like to do it. If these people can do it, I can do it. I've done half marathons in the past, but I've never done a marathon. So this year I decided, right, stop talking about it and actually do it. So I've signed up and then I posted on Instagram on my stories that I was going to do it. I've told people that I'm doing it. All of this is great accountability because now, even though I'm now beginning to think, oh my God, do I really want to do it? All that training, am I able to do it? But I've said it out loud. I've committed to it. I've got accountability and I'm going to do it. I feel obliged to do it now. And I know I'll be super, super happy with myself when I do. So tell your friends about the new habit. Tell people in your family. Commit to it. Get accountability partners. And that's why coaches as well can be so brilliant, because they are the best accountability partners, because you've got to do the thing. Okay, number 8. Who are you being? This is a juicy one and probably the most important step for creating a new habit and for making any major upgrade in your life. But it might also be one of the hardest to get your head round. To be honest, I could do a whole episode on this point alone, but today I just want to give you an overview and a bit of a flavour of it. So this step is all about shifting your identity to match the habits you're adopting, because this is going to make the whole process so much easier. Studies have shown that nearly half of the actions we perform every day are habitual. So, for example, drinking your cup of coffee in the morning, talking with your mouth full, picking your nose, eating at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's definitely me, trying not to really slow down. But habits are responsible for much, much more than just the actions we take. Our beliefs and our thoughts and our words, as well as our actions, are also habits. But we get into the unconscious habit of just accepting thoughts and beliefs that literally hold us back and make us feel terrible about ourselves. Actually, it's over 95% of our thoughts that are subconscious. That is a huge percentage of our thoughts, which means we're stuck in our old way of thinking and stuck in old patterns. We are literally living in a trance. And often many of the thoughts are fears or doubts or worries, which are all kind of questioning yourself and questioning your amazingness, which often were learned lots and lots of years ago. So often when you were much, much younger, from the environment you are in and the people around you, and they are not the truth. Many of these thoughts are not the truth, but we treat these thoughts and the beliefs as if they are the truth. Things like, oh, I'm unlovable. Oh, I'm rubbish. Oh, my memory is rubbish. Oh my goodness, my nose is massive. Whatever it is, we've all got these deep-rooted thoughts and beliefs. And what you focus on, you create more of. So as you master a new habit, it's really important to become aware of your thoughts and where your attention is. Now, how do we do this? Well, meditation and mindfulness are brilliant places to start with this, because we're really focusing on our awareness in both of those practices. So we can become so much more aware of our thoughts throughout the day. And I have found that constant reminders to notice where my thoughts are at any given moment really, really helps. And that can just be simply putting an alarm on your phone every hour. And every time that alarm goes off, think, oh, where are my thoughts? Are they in a good place? Am I dwelling and ruminating on something over and over in my mind, which is causing me to feel anxious or feel bad about something? Or am I actually in the present moment? So when you notice a negative, unhelpful thought, try and think of a slightly better thought. So for example, you might say, oh, I can't meditate. My thoughts are everywhere. A slightly better thought would be, oh, what if I could actually sit down for 2 minutes and just become aware of my thoughts? That's all you need to do. It's a slightly better thought. One of the main reasons we fail to stick to new, healthier habits, and that we fail to ditch the negative ones, is that we focus on changing what we're doing or not doing without also making sure that we embrace the new habit as a new and valuable part of our identity. So it's not so much about what you're doing, although that is important, but it's more about who are you being. For example, if you decide you want to lose some weight. I mean, I don't really like talking about losing weight, but I know that this is something which a lot of people want to do. It's not really so much about the weight, it's about maybe losing some belly fat, say. So along with refraining from eating a load of crap and processed food and sugar, along with filling your fridge with delicious healthy vegetables, along with working out, what you also need to do is you need to become the person who has less belly fat, who struts around like, yes, this is my body. These are my excellent eating habits. And this is the way that I show up in the world. It's no big deal. It's just who I am and what I do. But if you're identifying instead as the heavier version of yourself, you're most likely put the weight back on because you're still identifying as someone who has excess belly fat that you don't want. And this is why lots of people who win the lottery, for example, almost always end up losing a lot of the money, most of the money in a lot of cases, because they're still identifying as someone who doesn't have any money. So by shifting your identity to align with the habits you're working to adopt, you prepare yourself to live in a totally new reality. When I started my coaching business, I knew that in order to get new clients, I had to be prepared to put myself out there and ideally be comfortable with getting in front of the camera. Now, this was something I really did not feel comfortable about. I felt very, very sick about every time I even thought about it. But little by little, I practiced and I took on the identity of someone who is comfortable in getting in front of the camera. And I became that person. And now I rarely think about doing kind of a little video for Instagram. I've become the kind of person who is happy to do that. So it's a whole new identity. I've ditched that identity of the person who, oh no, I can't do that, hating it, to the one much, much more confident. And it works. I tell you, I've done it and it's proof. So changing your actions in order to form a new habit without also changing who you're being. I mean, it's a bit like running into the wind, for example. So yes, it's possible to put your head down, run as hard as you can and gain some ground, but you're much, much more likely to give up and return to your old ways than if you run in the same direction as the wind. It's so nice, isn't it, when you've got the wind behind you? And that's what you're doing when you're living your new identity. We're making it easier. It's all about mastering the powerful, positive mindset, which really is required to keep upping your habits game. And it's all about this staying aware, shifting your focus when you catch yourself wandering down that pathway of negative thoughts and feeling kind of like really woe is me and oh my gosh, nothing's working for me, I'm rubbish at this. So it's about really consciously thinking thoughts that are aligned with where you want to go and who you want to become. And when it comes to building great habits and ditching the not so good ones, it's your commitment to staying focused on who you're becoming, regardless of where you are or who you are right now. That is the mightiest power you've got. And for me, this has been the biggest game changer in so many areas of my life. And one of the reasons really we don't stick to the habits that we want to adopt is that we focus all on taking the action, which is important, but we just don't get on board emotionally and mentally, which is more important, okay? When we do this, when our new habit gets challenging or boring, we're far less likely to abandon them for something easier or something more fun or something that offers more immediate gratification. This is the real key to long-lasting habit change. And this is something I'm really passionate about in my coaching practice and helping people with. That's the juicy one. Right, to finish, I've got 2 more points, much shorter than that one. So number 9 is anticipate your excuses and distractions because they're gonna come. Change is challenging for us humans, which is an unfortunate fact considering that the only constant thing in our lives really is change. But your new habit is changing an old way of being. So prepare yourself by meeting your self-sabotaging self with calm expectation instead of the surprise. So rather than saying, oh look, I've somehow eaten the whole packet of donuts, when you notice that the packet is suddenly empty, know that might happen before you do it and be aware so that you can stop yourself before it happens. So hide the donuts, lock them away, whatever it takes. Be prepared for those moments when self-sabotage is going to happen, because that is our brainstem saying to us, I need to go back to what's familiar. It's going to happen. But if we can anticipate it and we know it, then we are more likely to stop it. And luckily you are the expert on your incredible list of excuses and distractions, and most of which are also habits, by the way, which means you can be an expert at anticipating your excuses and distractions. So what you can do, you can write down, for example, every single thing you can think of that's going to throw you off course, whether that's hitting the snooze button on your alarm, scrolling on Instagram, suddenly going, oh, I actually fancy doing the laundry, or playing with the dog, whatever it is. Anticipate your excuses, and then you can really intercept them before they take hold. And my final step is step 10, which is be kind to yourself. We can all be so hard on ourselves. if you fall off track, don't worry about it. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and please don't dwell on it. But don't use it as an excuse to go, oh, right, I'm going to give up now. Simply move on and commit to getting back on track. That is all you need to do. Using it as an excuse is that's your old patterns and your beliefs kicking in. Just brush over it and start again the next day. So there you have it. So let me just give you a very quick recap. Number 1, keep it small. Remember, small is more likely to ensure that you succeed. Number 2, tack your habit onto an already existing, well-trodden habit. Number 3, make it easy. We want things to be easy. You're more likely to succeed then. Number 4, repetition is your friend. The more times you do it, the quicker and easier it's going to become in the long run. Number 5, reward yourself. Make sure you celebrate. Whatever your little celebration is, do it. Number 6, track your progress. Love your tick lists, because then you're not going to want to break the pattern. Number 7, accountability is everything. Tell everybody about what you're doing. Have an accountability partner. It really does help. Number 8, who are you being? Adopt the identity of the person who does the thing you want to do, whatever that might be. Number 9, anticipate your excuses and distractions. Be prepared for that self-sabotage. And number 10, be kind to yourself. There you have it. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Have you found them helpful? I'd love to know any new habits you would like to adopt. And if you want to use me as your accountability partner, come and tell me what it is that you are going to start. And if you would like a list of some really helpful habits which are particularly useful and effective during perimenopause, I have created a list of 50 which are all super, super quick, easy, time-saving things you can do which are going to positively impact your health and your life. All you have to do is go to the link, I'll put it in the show notes, and click on that and you'll be able to download this list, or you can go to my Instagram into the bio there. If you have enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could come and rate, subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts. It really, really, really helps this podcast. Or come and rate and subscribe on Spotify as well. You can come and contact me at info@pollywarren.com or over on Instagram at pollywarrencoaching. As always, I just want to say how grateful I am for your ears listening to this podcast. It really means the world to me. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you next time. Bye.